Now Bush and Cheney meet with the commission in this kangaroo staged Shakespearean event with the commission, and they're both there together so they get their story straight, meet in secret, no transcripts or audio or video is released, and then Bush walks out like a gangster and says, hey, if I had anything to hide, I wouldn't have gone and talked to the commission.
The Vice President and I just finished a good conversation with the 911 Commission. It was wide-ranging. It was important. It was just a good discussion, and I really appreciated the members. I want to thank the chairman and vice chairman for bringing the commission here and giving us a chance to share views on different subjects. And they had a lot of good questions, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took the time. This is an important commission, and it's important that they ask the questions they ask so that they can help make recommendations necessary to better protect our homeland. And but it was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. But it was I enjoyed it. Threats, John.
Mr. President, as you know, a lot of critics suggested that you wanted to appear jointly with the Vice President so that you two could keep your story straight or something.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what you think of the value of appearing together and how you would answer those critics?
Yeah, first of all, look, I mean, if we had something to hide, we wouldn't have met with them in the first place. We answered all their questions, and as I say, I think I came away good about the session because I wanted them to know, you know, how I set strategy, how we run the White House, how we deal with threats. If we had something to hide, we wouldn't have met with them in the first place. If we had something to hide, we wouldn't have met with them in the first place. I enjoyed it.
And were there any subjects that you didn't answer or were advised by your counsel not to answer?
I was never advised by my counsel not to answer anything. I answered every question they asked. Probably best that I not go into the details of the conversation. I never advised my counsel not to answer anything. I answered every question they asked. Probably best that I not go into the details of the conversation. Yeah, Adam.
Mr. President,
yes.
Don't you think that the families deserve to have a transcript or to be able to see what you
Adam,
said?
you asked me that question yesterday. I got the same answer, yeah.
Can you say with any confidence that there are no al-Qaeda operatives active in the country today?
The same answer, yeah.
Can you say with any confidence that there are no al-Qaeda operatives active in the country today?
No, I can't say that. But, so long as there's an al-Qaeda enemy that is willing to kill, we are vulnerable. Thank you all.
Now, remember that they tried to have Dr. Henry Kissinger, the war criminal, the whitewash master, the spy chief, codenamed the Boar. They tried to have this guy as the head of their independent commission, a man who's in business with George Bush's father, in business with James Baker, in business with Dick Cheney, involved in all these shadowy Carlyle Group activities with Kissinger and associates. The so-called independent head that they first tried to sell you was Henry Kissinger. No one across the political spectrum bought it. It was too obvious, so they gave you Thomas Keane, a lesser-known business partner of the Bushes and, yes, the Bin Ladens. Truth is stranger than fiction. And then to watch Bush in his press conference he had a few weeks ago get up there and fumble and stumble like he was some type of drunken idiot, this gun-grabbing, open borders promoting globalist that sold so many mindless people that think they're conservative on the fact that he's saving us from Al-Qaeda when he's business partners, him and his daddy, with Noriega, with Saddam, with bin Laden. In every case, it's their business partners, playing along with them basically in this staged event. or business partners they're stabbing in the back. Bush gets up at his press conference, and a member of the press says, well, what was the biggest mistake you made after 9/11? And Bush goes, gee, I wish you'd have given me this in writing, you know, like you're supposed to beforehand. Boy, I don't know. It's a tough question. Well, something's going to pop in my head. Can't really say we made any mistakes. Now, in another press conference in late 2003, his last big official press conference, he's only had 3 of them. I mean, he's had lots of little press conferences with dignitaries or with Dick Cheney, and he's done some interviews on Meet the Press, but he's only done 3 big major press conferences. So here is Bush in a press conference in 2004 saying, I wish you would have given me this question in writing beforehand. Then we have Bush in his last big press conference in the same White House dining hall saying to a reporter that I'm not going to your question, this is scripted. So over and over again saying it's scripted. And I've talked to some of the reporters. It is scripted. They only allow a certain number in. They have to give their questions beforehand to Karl Rove. But this isn't in our news. Bush can sit up there and say it's staged and tell people they should have given him questions in writing beforehand and bumble about in front of everyone, and then there's no discussion about it. Amazing.
John.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the last campaign, you were asked a question about the biggest mistake you'd made in your life, and you used to like to joke that it was trading Sammy Sosa. You've looked back before 9/11 for what mistakes might have been made. After 9/11, what would your biggest mistake be, would you say, and what lessons have you learned from it?
I wish you'd have given me this written question ahead of time so I could plan for it. John, I'm sure historians will look back and say, gosh, he could have done it better this way or that way. You know, I'm sure something will pop in my head here in the midst of this press conference, all the pressure of trying to come up with an answer, but it hadn't yet. I wish you'd have given me this written question ahead of time so I could plan for it. I wish you'd have given me this written question ahead of time so I could plan for it.
Bottom line, Bush is nothing but a puppet, the same as Bill Clinton or Dick Cheney or any of these people. John Forbes Kerry, his cousin and skull and bones coffin mate. But it's very important for everybody out there to understand this, that he has knowledge of 9/11. He was a part of 9/11. And it is so sad to see the criminals involved in the atrocities of September 11th standing up there posing as our saviors. Now we're going to report on the police state for you. And again, there are so many horrible things happening that it's hard for me to even scratch the surface here. I suggest you visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com on a daily basis to look at the facts for yourself and to get the big picture. You know, if Americans would become experts on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the geopolitical scene, which is very exciting and frankly terrifying, we would have a free country. But instead, they're experts on football. And I commend those of you out there, those of you at PrisonPlanet.tv and others that have supported us and that are here seeking after knowledge, seeking after the truth, that are involved and informed. You literally are the guardians of civilization. You literally are following in the footsteps of those that claim the earth was round and that slavery was wrong. And again, I commend you for being concerned. Now let's get into the police state. And it fits in with the Patriot Act and the rest of what's happening. George Bush has introduced a new bill. He has been stumping around the country saying that we need to reauthorize the Patriot Act next year. because it expires, and he wants it reauthorized before 2004 ends, for 2005. And he says that the terrorist threat doesn't expire in 2005. Oh, we know it doesn't expire. You've said this war on terror is going to last 100 years. Our loss of liberty is just going to get worse and worse. And he's introduced this new bill that has bipartisan support. It is Strengthening Anti-Terror Penalties, is the title of the bill. And in this bill, the Strengthening Anti-Terror Penalties Act, they call for executing anyone who commits a federal crime that is dangerous to human life, that is punishable by more than 1 year in federal prison. And a lot of people say, well, they're not using the Patriot Act, to go after citizens. They're using it to fight terrorists. But in reality, we've already covered how they're going after pot dealers, county commissioners, topless bars, Rush Limbaugh's medical records, you name it. Well, Bev Harris is a corporate crime investigator. She's an award-winning journalist, and I've interviewed her many times. And long before Bev Harris showed up on the scene, I was on talk radio. I was talking to vote scam experts who were exposing how even the so-called paper ballots are fed into a computer, and how then those computer numbers can be manipulated. And we had literally hundreds of examples of this happening. But now with the new touchscreen, paperless systems, there's no way to go back and do a hand recount and expose the fraud. And again, hundreds of the frauds have been exposed in the past. But now they're trying to get rid of any paper trail. And the federally controlled League of Women Voters has come out against a bill by Congressman Rush Holt that would demand that there be a paper ballot printed out when you use one of these Diebold or Hart InterCivics voting machines. Well, Bev Harris got off of Diebold's website because they were stupid enough. A lot of people store their documents on their web server. And Diebold employees, and I believe they did it on purpose, good people inside to leak the information, posted links to Diebold memos about how they were going to defraud the voters and how to run the scams and how to cover it up and how to hack the machines and how they had wireless transmitters inside of them. And so Bev posted these memos on her website that she got off their website. And they got her website shut down for a while, and she went back after them in court and got her website put back up. And then Bev on my radio show talked about how people were then offering her the computer codes, the design of some of the voter machine companies, and how this was proprietary information, and she was smart enough to refuse it. She knew it was an attempted setup to then try to frame her for hacking. And lo and behold, she's now had the Secret Service and others come down on her in this quote investigation. And she's written a 27-page report on this at blackboxvoting.org. And sure enough, the leading watchdog group for clean voting has now been hit. The Secret Service wants your name, will subpoena this website. And they're using the Patriot Act to go after her. There is a kind of a promotion arm or a PR arm of the 4 or 5 big electronic voting machine companies that are out there. And they're called Vote Here. And this is the company that has no visible means of support. It doesn't seem to sell anything. Its board is heavily infested with defense industry types. A former CIA director, Robert Gates, now heads George Bush's School of Government. He's on the board. It has Admiral Bill Owens, also vice chairman of SAIC and a member of the Defense Policy Board with Richard Pearl and Wolfowitz, the neocons, a very close friend of Dick Cheney, and a former Washington Secretary of State, Ralph Munro.